Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to take a look at the Ifly 737 MAX 8. Now I know there's a lot of videos out there already on this aircraft. There's a lot of hype around it. So I just want to do a quick little flight from Porto to Lisbon, just because it's a short flight, just to kind of see how the aircraft handles and how the systems operate. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay guys, and here we are parked outside sporting the Ryanair livery. Now this livery was created by J'Aviation, which I found on flightsim.to, and I can say that he did an amazing job with both the external livery and the internal cabin, which I'll show you guys later on. I'll be linking it in the description down below if you guys want to download this, because it's really well done. So now as we move through the modeling of the aircraft, you can see the amount of detail that Ifly has put into this aircraft. Like, I can say that it is super detailed. It's very well done, so hats off to the team at Ifly, because this aircraft looks amazing. Now let's look at the cockpit, and this cockpit is also really well done. You can see all the switches and knobs. It does have a glass cockpit and a tablet. Now originally the tablet is on both sides of the cockpit. I usually just use it on one, so if you want to turn this off, on the right top hand corner, when you see a little hand, you can click on it and it'll just remove it. If you want to bring it back, you just click here and it'll come back. So looking at this cockpit, you can see a lot of it resembles the 737 NGX, especially the overhead panel and this center panel. But you can see the big difference comes right in the center here, where you have the glass cockpit, so a lot bigger screens and a lot more information can be displayed. So I'm just going to quickly turn on the aircraft and get the systems up and running, and then I'll show you guys how to put in the flight plan, and I'll show you guys the cabin, and then we can go for a little flight. Okay, so now that I've started everything up here, I'm just going to open up the door here, and I'm going to ask for some help to start loading the cabin. Okay, so while the crew is climbing on board and they're still putting in the luggage on this side, I'm going to start preparing the aircraft because the passengers should be arriving any moment. So I'm going to show you guys how to use this FMC to program in like a flight plan. Just to see if it'll help you guys make it easier. So when you start here, I just went to the position in it page, and you can see that the main displays don't have any mapping on it yet. That's because it is still not aligned. So what it's asking for here is it wants us to set the IRS. So in order to do this, you're going to click on this line above, because I put in here the airport LPPR. It's giving us obviously the positioning, and it copies it down here automatically, and then you're going to paste it into this one here. And on your aircraft, it may take a couple of seconds or minutes to load if it's on rail. I have it just set to automatic so that it just populates it just for the sake of keeping it quick. So once this is done, I'm going to click on route, and then here LPPR is already down here, so I'm going to insert it on the origin. Under destination, we're going to put LPPT, and then we're going to give it a flight number. So RA36, let's just go with that. And runway, so we're taking off from runway 17 today. And there we go, we're going to activate, execute. Now we're going to go to the perf page. So here, altitude, let's just do 18,000. And after that, over here, we're going to have one for reserve and the cost index of 35. Once you're done that, if you click up here, it'll just populate the zero fuel weight and up here the CG. You're going to click execute. In the N1 limits, we're going to leave it as is. It's already automatically selected. The takeoff preference here, so we're going to want flaps 5. And once you put that in, automatically the V1 and the V2 speeds are here. They're automatically inputted. And then you're going to click on this button to get the CG again. And there's your 19.1% with a trim of 5.99. And you can see the trim automatically start to move. So once this is done now, we can go to the flight plan. So right now it's empty. And like I had said before, there really isn't any waypoints. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to departure and arrival. And there's the airport we're arriving at. And then it was ILS 02. And then we want to go to that INBO 1A. And then we can just click execute, and if we go back to legs now you should see it's going to go straight to INBOM, and then from there it's going to start the arrival into 02. Now if you had waypoints, you would have put them before this. Now that this is done, I have a direct to straight to INBOM, so that's pretty much it for the flight plan. Now I just got to set up the autopiloting system up here and my preferences on the screens, and then once we're all loaded, we can go for our little flight. Okay guys, so I'm pretty much set up other than starting up the engines. So in the meantime, let's just take a look at the cabin and see how that's going. So there's a stewardess. And as we walk back, again, look at the modeling that J Aviation did on this livery. So good. And yeah, it looks... it doesn't look like the GSX is leaving the passengers in the cabin, which is unfortunate. Maybe they'll fix that in a future update. Because normally you should see all the passengers seated in the aircraft at this point. But yeah, take a look at these textures. Even the seating have the right color. The bins at the top. So if you don't know, if you click on the bins actually open. I mean, nothing really goes in there, but it's nice to see. The seats themselves, if you click, the trays actually open up as well. Now this aircraft, I guess being low budget, doesn't have like a business class or anything up front. I think it just has the extra legroom, or maybe it is business, I didn't even realize. But these seats up here do have, let's see, I think they have screens. Nothing is on the screens for this one. And I believe they have folding tables. Yes, they do. So that's really neat. Again, a couple things that this aircraft has that really don't serve a purpose, but it's nice to see the amount of detail. Now, even the window shades themselves, you can open or close. And if we go up here to the front, they do have a washroom. Oh, we're going into the passengers. Let's go around. So there's the cockpit door. If I close this, here's the lavatory. If we open, there's a washroom in here as well. Now, I don't think anything really works in here except for the flush button and the toilet seat, which I believe can go up. There we go. And I believe the seat can go up as well. And if you press the flush, you can hear the sound of it flushing. Again, you see a lot of these like custom signage and stuff. This is all from the interior cabins. So really, really well done. So So I'm just going to wait till they finish loading up these passengers, and then we can head on our way. So one thing before we take off, guys, I just want to show you. If your aircraft does not have, for example, the head-up display up here, or if it's missing a function in the cockpit, there are different versions of the cockpit for different liveries and companies. So if you go here into the menu, and at the bottom you go into the system page, if you go back one page here and you go to panel style, now every one of these options here have different things that you can add to the cockpit. So if I remember correctly, I think other systems, see here's the IRS alignment time. I had it as instant. You might have it as fast or realistic, which will take some time. Here at the bottom, you can put in ice detection probe. You can enable the HUD. So anything that you add into the cockpit, you just click set and done. And once you go back, now if I look up, there's the HUD. It's been added. So you can pretty much customize anything that you want in the cockpit. Now if I go back out to the doors, these windows do have shades as well. So if you click here in the center and you click here, you can have both shades, and you can do that on both sides as well. I don't think there's any shades up here, not that I know. No, there isn't. So yeah, I'm just going to finish off the passengers loading, and then we can start closing the doors and getting ready to go. Okay, boarding is complete, so I'm just going through and closing up all the doors. Cargo doors are all closed, entrance doors are closed. And once this is all done, we can just head back to the main menu. Now here you have the performance takeoff page. The nice thing about this is you can copy from the FMC, which will bring the information from the computer, and the only information you have to insert is the AC config and the anti-ice. So I have both of these turned off at the moment. So if I just go off, and then you have calc. If you click there, it'll calculate your VREFs again. Some extra information here. So there's my trim at 5.99, which was the same. And then here's your V references, but they're pretty much the same as what I had, 142, 144, 154. Slightly different, but I'm going to leave them as is for now. I don't think it'll make that much of a change. Now, since everything is done, we want to start the towing. So I'm going to use GSX for this as well. Okay guys, so one bug I see right now, this is with the GSX, so if you're doing the pushback, you'll see that once it asks you to release the parking brake, even after you release it, it'll continue to keep asking you for it, so it's not recognizing you released it. So the only way, unfortunately, to kind of bypass this, just in case you guys have the same issue, is open up the GSX again. We want to interrupt it, yes, to stop it. And unfortunately, we're just going to have to go back in again. Sorry, you have to now set the parking brake again. And now we can request it for a second time. And now this time it should work. Okay, so I'm going to try releasing the parking brakes again. And there we go, so this time it worked. Now it wants me to start up the engines, so I'm going to do that in the meantime. Now, so far the aircraft has been great. I think the one biggest issue that I have, to be honest, is the ground steering. It's super sensitive, but again, I also have the tiller and the rudder being controlled by the same input, so that might be the reason why. So I just have to be very careful with the speed and making sure that my inputs are minimal, because as soon as I push it way too much, it's just gonna veer right off the runway. Okay, so we're pretty lined up on the runway. Let's just make sure that we have our landing lights on. And that's it. Enjoy the flight. Now that we have positive rate, landing gear can come up. And we want to do our best to kind of stay on that pinkish purple line. Because then once you turn on the autopilot, it'll be easier. So right now I'm going to turn on the LNAV and VNAV, and it's normal that the speed disappears, because that just means it's being managed by the computer. And then you have two commands here for autopilot. We just need one of them turned on. And that's pretty much it. Now we're flying. Now normally over 10,000 feet you want to turn off the lights. In this case I'm just going to turn them off now. Now this plane has something unique. If you pull these back, you see how it has two levels to it? So if you pull it all the way back, that means they're completely off. If you leave it in the center, and you pull this one back to the center, now if you go on the outside, let me just change this barometric pressure. Yeah. Now if you switch them, you can see that the lights kind of alternate between left and right. They just kind of keep flashing. Let's see if I can give you guys a better view. There's no way for me to show you guys both at the same time. There you go. So you have the off position, this position where it flashes between the two, or you have the both fully on when it's ready for landing. So we can start pulling up our flaps. And that's it. You guys can just enjoy the view. Okay, so we've reached the top of Klein at 18,000 feet. So as you can see here from the displays, our top of descent should be coming up very quickly. Let me just zoom out a little bit. So what we want to do now is we're going to have to start preparing for the descent. So the first thing we want to do is we want to lower our altitude to the altitude to intersect the glide slope. So that would be 4,000. So we're going to reduce this. Okay, so once it hits the top of descent and it starts to go down, it'll just go down to the 4,000. And then the next thing you want to do is we're going to look at our auto brakes. This is a fairly long runway, so we can go 2, which is more than enough. On your FMC, you're going to go to init ref again, and it's already changed to approach ref. So we're going to see here you have 3 options: 153, you have 148, and you have 143. So this is based off your flaps. So you have 15% flaps, you want 153. If you're going to go 30% flaps, you're 148, and if you're 40, you're going to go 143. Normally, I believe this aircraft usually goes 30 or 40. I'm going to go 40 for this one. So you're going to click on it, it copies it down here, and then you're just going to insert it right below here where it's empty, and that'll just tell the computer what configuration for landing you want. And once you're done that, then what you want to do is this aircraft, you have to enter in the course heading and the ILS in order for the computer to be able to navigate to the ILS approach. So the first thing is down here in the center. If you see the computer here that has the VOR on it, you're going to want to switch the mode until you see ILS. So if you click this button up once, now the ILS for this runway is going to be 1091, and then if you click on this button here that says standby and active, it'll switch it from the lower line to the line above. So now this has become the active line, and because this is Boeing, they want you to do it on both sides for redundancy to make sure you're inputting things correctly. So again, we're going to switch the mode to ILS, and we're going to go 109, and then there is a dot, but it's already automatically there. It's going to be 109.1, and then we're going to move it up to the active line. And then for the course heading, up here in the center, you're going to see this knob that has the crosshair on it. So here the course right now is set to 0. For this runway, course heading is 025. So we're just going to rotate it to the right until we hit 25. And again, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Once again, it's for redundancy, just to make sure the inputs are correct. Okay, so now the ILS is configured for landing, and we're on track, which is great. Everything up here seems to be good. One thing you might want to check is here on the right, I didn't mention it before, but it has the auto and the manual. You want to change this altitude to the altitude you have for cruise, which was 18,000. I already did that. And then below here you have your landing altitude. So just to make sure the computer is configured correctly, the landing altitude for this aircraft is, I put it as 0. Some of them might be higher, so you want to make sure that that's inputted in there as well. So while we wait to hit our top of descent, we can once again take a look at the beautiful cabin in the aircraft in flight. So we go ahead, open the door. Now, if the GSX was working correctly, we should see the passengers, like I said, in their seats. and the stewardess, but in this case, for some reason, they disappear. But it's still nice to walk around the cabin. Now, if you don't know how to walk around the cabin, I do have another video on my channel with very specific instructions on how to do this. But I'm just using my mouse to look around, and then my movement keys is WASD, and I've configured that through the key binding. So again, if you guys don't know how to do it, just look for the video in the channel. We'll show you how to set it up so that you can walk the same way I am through the cabin. Okay, so we're reaching our intersection into the glide slope. Now, before we do that, we just want to do a couple of checks. The first check is we want to make sure that the approach ref has been inserted, which it has, 40 degrees at 143 knots. The second thing is the speed brake has been put to 2, which is great. The altitude up here has been marked as 4,000, which is the glide slope path interception altitude. Our course heading is 025, which we have it on both, which is great. Down here the ILS is 109.1, and we have that on the top line of both, which is perfect. And this aircraft is configured for Cat 3, which we will test and see if it works. And up here we have the 0 for the altitude, landing altitude, which is great as well. So we pretty much can start turning on our lights, and the rest of this we want to put this to continue. Okay, seatbelt signs are on, so the computer's pretty much configured. So I've already manually started taking over the speed, so we're at 210 with flaps at 5. And you can see that we're perfectly on the descent path, which is great. And as we make our final 2 turns here, I'll start preparing for landing. So the next thing you guys want to do is, we're close enough, you want to press the APP button here, which stands for the approach. So as long as you're within distance of the airport and you press this button, you see here it says VNAV path. So what we're going to wait for is when it makes that turn, you're going to see that the glide slope path show up over here, and then once we click on it, it should activate and take us down. And we're going to start slowing down further. So we're at 210. Let's go down to 180. And as it starts to descend further, we're going to continue giving it some flaps to slow it down, because we don't want the nose to rise too high. And if you look at your screen here, you see this red line that keeps dropping. This is your flaps, so you don't want it to go below your speed. You're going to get a warning in the cockpit, so you'll see as the speed decreases, this will keep going up, which means you can, give it another level of flap. So right now we're doing really well. We're lining up. Okay, so now I just pressed the approach button again, and you see that now it says GS over here in green, and you have the little diamond marker. So we're right exactly where we should be. We're on the glide slope. It's going to start to descend. So now that we're at about 180, we can pull down the landing gear. And of course, you want to drop the speed down to 143, so we're going to do that as well. That'll be our landing speed. And as it starts to drop in speed, we're going to give it full flaps. As you can see, here's the diamond. The glide slope has become active. That little pink diamond is going to drop and it's going to stop here in the center. And it'll do that probably once we're lined up here with the runway. go. So the aircraft is starting to push down. So we have two diamonds, one here on the right and one on the left. So you have your vertical and your horizontal, and both of these should be in the center for you to be perfectly aligned on the ILS. So you see this one here at the bottom is moving towards the right, so we're shifting over to the right just to align. And as you can see now, we're pretty much bang on both horizontally and laterally, and we have a descent speed of about 650 feet per minute. Now if you want to use the HUD up here, you just press here on the right hand side and it drops it down. And as you can see out in the distance, there's the airport, and you'll see all the adjustments. You'll have the same markers here, altitude and your speed. So this just gives you a better indication in case you have bad visibility. So if it was full of clouds or zero visibility, this would be great in order to help you determine if the landing is doable or not. So I'll leave that down there for now. And the last thing you want to do in order to do the ILS landing is here in the center you see it says single channel. That means it's only running on the one channel, which doesn't do the full ILS Cat 3 landing. So if you wanted to do the full Cat, you're going to have to click the second command button. Now both of these will stay highlighted, and once this is done here in the center, this is going to change and say, I believe it's Cat 3. We'll just watch it for a second and see if it changes. And just before we land, last thing you guys want to double check is, you see the speed brake here. If you guys are doing a Cat 3, you want to arm this so that once the aircraft touches down, the speed brakes will automatically deploy. So in order to do that, you can grab it and pull up, because it just has one notch. So if you do that, and if you've done it correctly, this little light up here will turn green, which just says speed brake is armed. So that way at least you know that that's ready when you touch down. And here we go, guys. Here's the approach on final. And you can also see here that that single signal now has changed to land 3, which means you're on a Cat 3 landing, all controlled by the computer. Now you'll want to hear the callouts. Once the aircraft is about 30 feet from the ground, you're going to hear it call out altitudes. Once it's 30 feet, you're going to pull back the throttle, and once you pull back the throttle, that'll turn the engines to idle, and at that point then the aircraft should just slightly touch down, and at that point disengage the autopilot, and that's it. Once you engage the reversers, it'll slow the aircraft right down until you come to almost a stop, and then you can just roll off the runway. So here we go. Okay, the reversers are on. I'm going to apply some braking pressure. And that's pretty much it. So what can I say about the ILS landing? It was pretty good. It was aligned on the ILS going down, which is great. I think the touchdown speed was just a little bit too high because that was a little bit of a hard landing in my opinion. I know that Cat 3s usually are a little bit rough, but I don't think it should be that bad. But all in all, it did very, very well in terms of the flying, in terms of following the flight plan. Even the landing, it did fairly well. I just think it should have been a little bit lighter, but maybe I could have started the cutoff a little bit earlier. So now we're on the ground. You just got to taxi back to the airport, and that's it. And while you guys are watching the replays of this fantastic landing by Ryanair, I'm going to bid you all farewell. This brings us to the end of today's video. So I hope it was informative. I hope you guys learned a little something from it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.